So D.C. as a militarized zone, new allegations against the Cuomo administration, two very controversial bills headed to the Senate. Let's see how much we can get to with Tennessee Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn. Welcome back, Senator. Always good to have you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. It is a busy day.
It is. I want to kick off with a little bit more. The Wall Street Journal broke this news a couple of hours ago about their allegations that top advisors pressured changes to the reporting on what was actually happening in regard to nursing home people who ended up dying from COVID. Now, New York Times has got a new report out as well, and they say that the governor's most aides wanted to hide information. They rewrote the report to take it out. That's according to interviews and documents that the New York Times has seen. They say the extraordinary intervention came just as Mr. Cuomo was starting to write a book on his COVID achievements and his pandemic achievements. It's the earliest act yet known in what critics are calling a months-long effort by the governor and his aides to obscure the full scope of what really happened with those nursing home deaths. Your reaction tonight?
What we are seeing is that they chose to manipulate this information to serve their purposes or to serve the governor's purposes. And Shannon, how heartbreaking this must be, and certainly is to people that lost their loved ones because of the way this nursing home scandal was handled, by putting these individuals into these nursing homes when they knew they had COVID, not using the other facilities that had been made available there in New York. And now you have this loss of life, you have a cover-up that seems to be developing, and you have intentionality by the governor and his advisors to manipulate this data and to hide the facts.
Well, his advisors again saying tonight, bottom line of the report that didn't change is they say that March 25th directive that was sending people back, COVID patients back to nursing homes or banning testing of people for COVID going into nursing homes. They say that wasn't the driver of all of those deaths. That's their position. But as you said, reaction tonight coming from across the board. We have a Democratic lawmaker in New York who's tweeting out, this is criminal. I mean, there are going to be more questions before we get some more answers on that. So I want to turn to some other things that we want to talk to you about tonight, which include the barbed wire, the fences, the National Guardsmen and women away from home for months here guarding D.C. So this exclusive look we got at this report that's saying, among other things, we could have a quick reaction force that permanently resides within the D.C. Guard by reestablishing a military police battalion, staffing it with active Guard reserve troops who live in or near the city year-round, perpetually on active duty, could go up to $130 million. What have you been told about threats that justify this level of security?
We have not been told anything about threats that justify this level of security. And I find it so interesting, Shannon. They don't think the wall works at the border, but they do think it works here in D.C., and they want to make it permanent. It needs to come down. The fencing needs to come down. The Capitol is the people's house to watch democracy in action. And we know that January 6th was an intel failure. So it sends a bad message to our foreign adversaries. We need to spend the money hiring, training, and equipping Capitol Police, but we do not need to keep this militarized zone up in the middle of Washington, D.C. The Guard troops deserve to be home with their families and not on duty here in Washington.
And that document that we got, thanks to Jennifer Griffin and Lucas Tomlinson, is a draft, we understand. These are proposals. I want to move on to COVID relief. Here is what your Democratic colleague, Senator Chris Murphy, had to say today about you guys voting against helping the American people. That's the way he put it.
Republicans didn't have a problem spending $1.9 trillion to give tax breaks to their wealthy friends. I don't know why they all of a sudden have a problem putting money into the pockets of hardworking Americans who are suffering through the worst health care crisis this country has seen in a century.
So how much of this nearly $2 trillion bill would actually help real Americans who desperately need it? And why are you voting no if you are?
I will be a no vote on this, and the reason you're seeing so many people, it'll probably be a party line vote, Shannon, because only 9% of this $2 trillion bill actually goes to COVID-related items. You have 1% of this bill that is being spent on vaccines, and there's already $1 trillion in the pipeline that hasn't been spent. The appropriate thing is to repurpose that money to get timely, targeted, temporary relief to individuals who desperately need it because of loss of their livelihoods, making certain that people are getting their vaccinations. And when you talk about getting children back in school and people back to work, my goodness, we have $67 billion that has been spent on getting children back to school. Only $6 billion of that has been pulled down by school systems in the states. There is money in the system. Let's get money to those that need the help. But another $2 trillion, that would be a total of $5.5 trillion. What we do know is this: when you have a bill that only 9% is there for COVID relief, the rest is going to arts, humanities, transportation, bailouts for the big blue states, and then also loan forgiveness for different programs that the Democrats have decided they want to practice loan forgiveness. But see, this is a way that they are going to prepay the advancement of their socialist agenda. This is what they're going to use to say thank you to some of their big donors and people that helped them get elected. Earmarks are coming back in this thing. And fortunately, Pelosi's subway, that earmark was pulled out because people were so up in arms. These things have nothing to do with targeted relief for Americans who are suffering because of COVID.
Yeah. And I think everybody agrees that needs to happen. A lot of folks are in need. Right now,
Yes.
we could show folks live on the Senate floor. They're reading the entire bill. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican, insisted on that, says you all need to find out what's in it. Everybody else needs to hear what's in it. There will be an all-nighter for you guys, and then hours of debate, and it goes from there. Senator Blackburn will watch. Thank you.
Thank you.